Welcome to the Reelygoodfilms Podcast, a chance to look back at the films we've reviewed recently, but also look forward to the upcoming releases as we head into autumn. First, let's recap the original review of each film, followed by additional commentary that may contain spoilers. Don't worry, you'll be warned before any spoilers, so you can avoid them if you wish. The films we've covered recently have had plenty of action, from battling vampires in Day Shift to the tough rescue missions of Guy Ritchie's The Covenant and the Netflix blockbuster Extraction, to our most recent film, the corny action flick Copshop. Heart-pumping features for a variety of tastes. Now that we know what's coming up, let's have a look at the original review of Day Shift. Day Shift tells the story of a man who just wants to provide for his daughter, using a pool cleaning business as a front for his real source of income, killing vampires. Day Shift is an action comedy that delivers a fun time. Jamie Foxx's charisma and likeability are what make this very generic film work. The action is impressively choreographed and shot. Unfortunately, the film's plot is thin and its villain is pretty bland. The supporting cast are solid, with Dave Franco and Snoop Dogg both doing their best to breathe life into a script whose humour will rarely produce more than a wry smile. Day Shift is an unambitious film that, unless you're a particular fan of its cast, is likely worth a skip. The extra bit for Day Shift does note something that happens later in the film, so may be considered a slight spoiler. So, if you don't want to know any more of the plot than what's in the trailer, feel free to skip forward now to our next review. There are some standout sequences in Day Shift, including its opening and the tackling of a nest of vampires, where our leads are helped by famous vampire-hunting brothers. The vampires, while not particularly visually interesting, are impressive in their athleticism, with the film hiring Cirque du Soleil performers for the contortionist vampires. Day Shift shows that if you have the right cast, as well as good production values and cinematography, you can make a film better than it should be on paper. Hopefully that extra commentary was helpful to those wanting to know a bit more before watching Day Shift. Our next film is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, not to be confused with the campy horror film from 2006 featuring Sebastian Stan and Taylor Kitsch. Here's our review of the serious action drama which was released just this year. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant tells the story of a local interpreter who risks his life to carry a wounded sergeant across inhospitable terrain during the war in Afghanistan. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is a fantastic thriller that combines the tension of physical danger with the emotional power of a strong bond between two men. The central performances by Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim are exceptional, with great on-screen chemistry between the two actors. The script shows the complexity of human communication, with subtext and non-verbal exchanges giving great depth to the discussions and relationships between characters. This is an impressive film which goes far beyond depicting the harsh realities of war. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is absolutely worth a watch. The extra review of Guy Ritchie's The Covenant doesn't contain any spoilers, so here are my additional thoughts on the film. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant highlights the broken promises made to those helping Western forces in Afghanistan. The film is almost as much a drama as it is a thriller, and that is what elevates it above many other films set in a conflict. If I were to have one criticism, it would be that the use of on-screen text feels a bit clunky, but that is a bit of a nitpick in what is otherwise an exceptional film. The bond created between our central characters is wisely characterised as one of mutual respect, which prevents the film feeling saccharine. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant is a film you shouldn't miss. Our next film is the Chris Hemsworth vehicle Extraction. Let's look at the original review of the film. Extraction tells the story of a mercenary who embarks on a deadly mission to rescue the son of an imprisoned crime lord. Extraction is an action film that features plenty of tense sequences. It adds some twists and turns to its fairly cookie-cutter plot, which helps sustain the audience's interest over the course of its story. The film is elevated by good performances from Chris Hemsworth and the actor playing our imperiled teenager. The film does have some truly bad-looking CG explosions and smoke that can take the audience out of the action. Extraction is a forgettable film that, for most, is worth a skip. The extra review of Extraction does not contain any spoilers for the plot, so with that in mind, here's some additional thoughts. The Russo brothers have a distinct style, which is clear to see in this film's action sequences. David Harbour's brief appearance adds a lightness to proceedings, which is appreciated in a film that takes itself a little too seriously. Does it need the sequel that was just released? I'm not convinced, but it was clearly popular enough that a second film was made. It's just a well-paced action thriller that will entertain you for around 2 hours. Nothing more, nothing less. Our last feature has a lighter tone, so is a good film to end today's extended reviews on. Here's our original review of Copshop. Copshop sees a con artist unsuccessfully try to hide from an assassin in a small-town police station, and a rookie cop gets caught up in the conflict. Copshop is an action film that's not afraid of being cheesy. There's plenty of cool-sounding lines growled through clenched teeth, and action sequences that play fast and loose with reality. Alexis Lauder hands in an impressive performance here, standing her ground against Gerard Butler and Frank Grillo. The film is filled with many twists, some of which you just have to shrug at, as the film is more about having a good time than thinking too hard. Copshop is on the whole an enjoyable film, that is, worth a watch. The extra commentary on Copshop doesn't have any spoilers, so feel free to listen or watch on. Copshop's 70s theming only really appears at the top and tail of the movie, which makes it seem more for show than anything else. There is definitely plenty of action movie logic here, with characters having a miraculous ability to recover from injury. The supporting cast are good, and the film is economical with their development, so it doesn't feel too crowded with characters. Copshop is a fun ride that action junkies will enjoy. Well, that's all the films we've covered recently. Let's have a look at what films are being released as we head into spooky season. On September 29th, we get Saw 10. This sees John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, take revenge on those who pretended to cure his cancer, in a way only he knows how. Saw returns with what seems to be quite a simple setup, but one that may be more emotionally effective, with less of a focus on trying to make the traps comically outlandish. I don't think it will garner any new fans for the franchise, but one last entry can't hurt. Also on September 29th, we get what Ken Loach has called his probable swan song, The Old Oak. The film sees hostility turn into community when Syrian refugees are placed in a declining northern town, where the only communal space, a pub, is threatened with closure. This seems to be a moving drama about coming together to create a new community from people who have lost or are losing their own due to war or loss of industry. I'm sure it will be quite the uplifting tearjerker, which fans of the award-winning filmmaker will want to see. The Exorcist, Believer, comes out on Friday the 13th of October. Very spooky. It sees 2 young girls disappear, only to return possessed by demonic forces. This is not the first sequel to the iconic 1973 film, but it does see the first return of Ellen Burstyn, who played the mother of the original possessed girl Regan in the first film. Director David Gordon Green has said that just like his Halloween trilogy, this film will ignore all but the original film, so we will see if this proves a worthy direct sequel to a film that is still shocking to this day. A week later, we get Martin Scorsese's latest film, Killers of the Flower Moon, on October 20th. In this crime drama, members of the Osage tribe in the US are being murdered in mysterious circumstances, sparking a major FBI investigation. Combining scenes of death and destruction with dry wit, this film explores a nasty episode of America's past, and is based on a book by journalist David Graham. It looks like Scorsese may have another hit on his hands with this one. Five Nights at Freddy's comes to us just before Halloween on October 27th. Based on the video game series of the same name, this adaptation will hopefully live up to those games and scare audiences who love the games and those who have never played them. The plot centers around a security guard who starts working at an abandoned pizzeria with animatronic kids' entertainment, only to find out these robots may not be as benevolent as they seem. This looks like a pretty straightforward adaptation, so it will be up to the filmmakers to keep the audience guessing. Well, that's all we have time for on this episode of the Really Good Films podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you want more from Really Good Films, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. We're at Really Good Films on all of these platforms. And of course, subscribe to the podcast too on Spotify and Amazon Music. We can't wait to review more films for you soon.